Good morning, everyone. Live on BAM YouTube. You can find the YouTube at Now BAM if you're searching on YouTube. Let me know in the comments where you are tuning in live from today. The hot sheet covers what you need to know about the real estate industry in a 24-hour time period. On today's hot sheet, we've got a lot to cover. Big news from Wells Fargo, NAR's most recent court outcome, more layoffs by anywhere, the most affordable state in the U.S. It may shock you. And Swanepoel's Power 200 has been released. And we'll finish up with what the Fed is holding firm on. Today is Wednesday, January 11th, 2023, and the hot sheet starts now. Okay, if you caught the rundown, there is a lot to cover on the hot sheet. Again, this is your 24-hour time period on the real estate industry. This is the only place you can get this every single Monday through Friday live at 9:30 on the BAM YouTube channel. Let me know in the comments if you're tuning in live, where you're tuning in from. Hit the thumbs up button if you are enjoying day 3 of the hot sheet. And let's get into the big news that broke late yesterday from Wells Fargo. They are now officially out on new mortgage business. So Wells Fargo was once the number one player in mortgages. They're stepping back from the housing market. Okay, so what does this mean for existing clients, existing loans? Basically, anybody who has an existing loan with Wells Fargo, they're going to continue to service that. Okay, they're not going to be buying new loans. Obviously, lots of banks buy loans from other banks. Wells Fargo was in that business. I think that's an interesting insight to what they are maybe forecasting on some of these loans that have been written in the last couple of years. If they don't want to be in the business of buying loans, is it because they can't make money on it? Is it because some of these loans are going to be faulty? Just something to pay attention to. I don't think it's that urgent, but just something to pay attention to. Okay, this doesn't come as shock to Housing Wire. Wells Fargo hinted on Bloomberg back in August that they would likely shrink or eliminate this part of the business. They're going to reduce the size. Of course, this means I would expect more layoffs coming from Wells Fargo in the mortgage department. And I would also expect them to, stop promoting mortgage and such in their advertising. They're going to keep existing clients. They're going to keep wealth management clients, and they're going to continue to serve minority communities. Any new business or buying loans is now out for Wells Fargo. There is also some other mortgage news that I thought was interesting here in the last couple of days. Mortgage refinance demand is surging as homeowners take advantage of lower interest rates. Okay, so we've talked about this. Interest rates have come down. We're going to talk about the end of the show where they are sitting at today. The average interest rate for the 30-year fixed mortgage decreased from last week to 6.42. We're now sitting even lower than that. The drop in rates sparked a 5% increase in applications to refinance a home loan. Okay, well, we need to take into consideration, and CNBC, this is a little bit misleading. We need to take into consideration that refinances have been down 85 to 90% over the last year. The refinance market got completely crushed. If you're a lender in the comments, you know what I'm talking about. Your refinance business basically disappeared. If you didn't have purchase business as a lender, as a loan officer, well, then 2022, certainly second half, was rough for you. And maybe Wells Fargo, to the first article, a lot of their business was refi, and maybe that's why they're getting out. I don't believe that this 5% increase is really, that big of a deal, other than I'm curious who those 5%, who's made up of these people refinancing. If you didn't lock in a high rate in the last couple of years, up to, June or May of 2022 and the 2 years prior to that, what were you thinking? So are these individuals that have really high credit card debt? We've seen that over the last 6 months where consumers are racking up an enormous amount of consumer debt. I mentioned that on yesterday's hot sheet. If you missed that, you can go check it out right after this one, where I'm not that bullish on the consumer because of this consumer debt. There's a lot of people in that camp where it's like, all this credit card debt, it's a little concerning. I'd be concerned, who are these people that are refinancing right now, that are refinancing into the low sixes? I mean, there's not many people left that have 8%. So what exactly is the reason behind this surge, other than this little drop in mortgage rates? Just a little interesting nugget. All right, let's go to an unfortunate blow to NAR as they continue to fight in the courts for real estate as we know it. All right, U.S. Supreme Court denies NAR petition in pocket listing case. The nation's highest court, and this is Inman reporting this as of yesterday, highest court will not be weighing in on whether the real estate trade group's clear cooperation policy violates antitrust laws, so they're going to keep it in the lower court where it will proceed. NAR is obviously disappointed. Big point here is this is a huge year for a lot of these lawsuits. DOJ, the class action lawsuit, which is potentially going to trial right now, scheduled for October. There are a lot of things to pay attention to as it relates to commissions and how agents are able to promote and advertise properties that are going on. NAR is in the middle of it all. My hope as a real estate professional is NAR puts 100% of their focus on what's going on with the DOJ, what's going on with these lawsuits, and that's it. No more commercials. We are that could totally flop. They spend millions and millions of dollars in advertising to really just try to get new members that are going to happen anyway. I would love for them to stay out of that and focus on this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm definitely paying attention to this. There's going to be a whole lot of news, unfortunately, this year as it relates to the real estate industry and the court system, as well as DOJ coming up, DOJ, later in the year. Well, we've got more layoffs to mention here. Anywhere, formerly Realogy, has announced another round of layoffs. In an SEC filing, Anywhere announced a round of layoffs that took place on January 9th, 2023. The most recent cuts bring Anywhere's workforce reduction to 11% since June 2022. Anywhere also announced the end of RealSure, joining Zillow and Redfin by shutting down its iBuyer group. So that kind of just leaves Opendoor and OfferPad as the iBuyers. I don't really believe that Anywhere, formerly Realogy, was a player in iBuyer. I don't think anybody is confused that they were a real player. This was just them being able to say, to their agents and their different brands that, hey, we've got this offering. Go say that to your clients. We're going to be able to compete with this. It's really down to Opendoor and OfferPad at this point. Anywhere, obviously, the parent company to brands like Coldwell Banker and Century 21, has now announced another layoff, joining many other companies. We've mentioned Compass in the past multiple times, amongst others, who are cutting their workforce to make sure that they can compete in 2023. Anywhere is no different, and they have now cut 11% off of their workforce. Interesting nugget here. Anywhere, Compass, Redfin, all of them in the last 6 months, their stock is down, while Zillow's stock is up substantially in the last 6 months. They got ahead of it when they cut iBuying over a year ago, and the stock market is reacting positively to them, while some of these other companies that might be playing catch up now are feeling the pain on their stock price. Just an interesting note there. You can go look that up for yourself if you're interested. Okay. Study just came out. I cover this study every single year. I look at it every single year. It's a WalletHub study, and they released their 2023 analysis, 2023 best and worst states to raise a family, on Monday. And the study is claiming that there is a particular state that is, I'm not going to read that Fox Business headline because it doesn't make any sense to me. But there is one state that is the most affordable amongst all of the other states. So let's just go to what the top 5 most affordable states in the U.S. are, and the bottom 5 according to this WalletHub study. So the analysis took 51 key indicators of family friendliness, such as affordability, median income, and the employment rate, and combined the results into one final score. Again, they do this every year for the last 10 years, I believe. We'll put all of our notes into the show notes down below so you can grab these articles and see the whole list if you're interested. So, number one, Massachusetts, top 5 state to raise a family. Number one coming in is Massachusetts. Minnesota, New York, North Dakota, and Vermont round out that top 5. The top 5 worst states to raise a family: Alabama, South Carolina, Louisiana, Virginia, New Mexico, and Mississippi. By the way, I think that is 6. Yeah, that is 6, but I didn't write the article. CNBC did, or Fox Business rather. Excuse me, my apologies. CNBC, Fox Business wrote the article. That would be 6, not 5, Fox Business. So I don't know who's counting over there, but you definitely counted wrong. Mississippi, I'm sorry that according to WalletHub, you are the worst state to raise a family. And despite everything Deion Sanders did for that state by being at Jackson State the last 3 years, maybe with him leaving, going to Colorado, I don't know, maybe that's something to do with it. But there you go. That is the WalletHub study. We'll put that down below if you have any interest. Your state moved up substantially. If you're a real estate professional and you're trying to educate consumers in your marketplace and your state moved up or down on this list, that's something that you're going to want to share with your community, right? With your state. For example, regarding affordability, report indicates that Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Jersey are the most affordable states, with Arizona, Nevada, and Florida being the least affordable. Listen, you want to get a debate going in comments talking about states like Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New Jersey being the most affordable states in comparison to Arizona, Nevada, and Florida. In the comments, by the way, your thoughts on that. Hit the thumbs up button if you agree. If you disagree, definitely jump into the comments and let me know how you feel about that. There's a lot of people that have fled some of these states that we just mentioned: Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Jersey, 4 states like Arizona, Nevada, and Florida over the last couple of years for obviously lifestyle reasons, but also affordability reasons. This study is saying, with their 51 measurements considered, that Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Jersey are more affordable than Arizona, Nevada, and Florida, despite Nevada and Florida having no state income tax. So very interesting there. If again, if you're a real estate professional, I would dig into where your state is, see how that fits into your content, your blog, your newsletter, see how you can spin the data. There's a lot of people spinning data right now. How does this work for you and your business? And how can you educate the people that live in your community? Maybe a lot of people in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Jersey think this state's so unaffordable, but this study would counter that. Interesting thoughts, different ways you can go there. All right, Swanepoel 200. Every single year they release their Power 200. You can't pay to get on this list. So the people that are on this list don't pay to get on it. This is just a study done by T360, Stefan Swanepoel, and his consulting and research company. A lot of respect for that company. They put out a great list every single year. Whether there's bias in the list or not, you could definitely debate that, but they don't. It's not a vote. It's not a paid thing. And they put this list out every single year. Let's see, with their new release, their 10th annual industry list, where everything shook out, at least as it in regard to the top 10. Here we go. Number 1, Gino Blafari, who runs Home Services of America. Obviously, the Berkshire Hathaway Home Services brands all report up to Gino. Number 2, Gary Keller, Glenn Sanford. Number 3, Ryan Schneider, who is the Anywhere CEO, is now at number 4. Rich Barton, who I believe Rich was number 1 last year, now at number 5, so staying into the top 5. You have Sue Yanacone at number 6. Howard Hanna Crew, the whole entire Howard Hanna Crew, the number 1 largest private company in real estate, at number 7. Robert Revkin comes in at number 8. Andy Florence, first time in the top 10 for Andy Florence, who is the CEO of CoStar. Got more money than any of these companies, by the way. CoStar's got more money than any of these companies. I said it on a recent podcast. If they buy Redfin, which I think could happen, watch out. That I have no information on that. I have no insider information on that. I'm just saying, if Andy Florence buys Redfin, watch out. He's got a ton of dough. Hasn't done much outside of the HomeSnap and Homes.com purchases, but he's got money. He's in the top 10 of power players. And then you got Phil Soper in at number 10. To me, the biggest miss here is Nick Bailey not being in the top 10. He is in at number 11, the CEO of Remax Global. Dude is a gangsta with an A, not an ER. Total respect for what Nick's doing over there. Legacy brand, obviously, at Remax, but the guy is a power player. Glenn Kelman comes in at number 12, despite Redfin stock being down almost 90% in the last 12 months. We'll link up that if you want to go check out the rest of the list. Again, Swanepoel does this every single year. They've got a watch list. They break it down from brokerage and organized real estate, technology, other services, the watch list, and outside influencers that didn't make the list. So you can check that out. Okay, now for what I would consider worst news of the day. Jerome Powell speaking yesterday and saying the Fed might have to make unpopular decisions to stabilize prices. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell noted that stabilizing prices require making tough decisions that can be unpopular politically. In other remarks, the central bank leader said the Fed is not and will not be a climate policy maker. This is when he was delivering a speech to Sweden's Riksbank. Okay, so no matter what, he's standing firm. The Fed is standing firm that no matter how unpopular these decisions may be, we're going to make them. We are going to do whatever it takes to get inflation from 7% down to 2%. These are his words, not mine. He said this repeatedly. He put housing on the hot seat, and he wanted to take the housing market down. With the mortgage interest rates, they believe they've made significant headway in that. Something else that Jerome Powell has said repeatedly, and I think he's alluding to it in yesterday's speech, is that even if it takes Americans losing jobs, this isn't something I agree with, but this is something the Fed has said that they will clearly use as a tool if they need to, for whatever reason. And Logan from Housing Wire has said this recently a whole bunch. Totally respect when he says this. For whatever reason, we've got baby boomers believing that putting people out of work is what's best for Americans. It sounds odd when you say it, and I agree with Logan. It doesn't make any sense in the environment that we're in, especially with millennials being the largest demographic in this country, driving the workforce, driving new innovation, driving the country right now. It doesn't make a lot of sense to say, let's go ahead and kill the job market and kill innovation. I don't know necessarily that we need unemployment to go to 7% just to get inflation back down to 2%. Okay, we have a jobs report coming tomorrow. So everybody's going to be looking at that. Unemployment report, rather, coming tomorrow on Thursday. Everybody's going to be looking at that. The Fed's going to be looking at that. We'll see what reactions they have to it. But despite all the good news in the last 3 months, despite good CPI reports, despite a strong job market, despite wages cooling, even though we're adding jobs, which is what the Fed wants to see, is these wages cooling so people don't have as much money to go out there and spend and increase inflation. Despite all of that, the Fed is not coming off of their stance that they will do whatever it takes to curb inflation. Okay, we don't want to see inflation just completely run off. I would argue that obviously the bond market and some of these other signals that we've seen are indicators that we're not going to have runoff inflation. Okay, the Fed wants to make sure there's no chance of that happening. We'll see what they decide to do. Okay, speaking of the bond market, let's just take a quick look at where we're at on the 10-year. Obviously, you want to track the 10-year as it relates to the 30-year mortgage. In the last 5 days, you saw a nice little drop. We also saw the mortgage rates drop on that. We saw a little pop yesterday, and today it is slightly down. These are just small little moves, but with that pop yesterday, as we go over to the 30-year fixed, we did see the 30-year fixed jump up. This is why you want to track the 10-year. If somebody's asking you in the morning, where do you think the rates are going to be today? Well, I think they're going to come down a little bit because the 10-year is down just a little bit. Okay, so if you want to educate people, that's the first thing you're going to look at is where's the 10-year today. Obviously, the 30-year fixed rates for today are not out. Okay, but the average yesterday was 6.21. That is up from Monday, which was 6.14, and slightly up from where we finished the last week off at 6.2. There's a lot of belief that we're still going to get into the fives. We'll see where that 10-year goes, and we'll continue to watch that closely. And we'll continue to just report on that in the ticker here on the hot sheet and every single day as we end the show where we are at. Okay. If you missed any of the hot sheets, make sure you're subscribed to BAM. You can go check out yesterday's hot sheet or Monday's. There's so much information. Let me know in the comments. We've got knowledge brokers coming up on Friday. We've got the walkthrough coming up tomorrow, every single Thursday. That goes out at 5 p.m. Eastern time. What topics that I just ran down would you like us to go deeper on future podcasts? Happy to do that. Happy to take your thoughts in the comments. For sure, a couple of these are going to be going into knowledge brokers on Friday with myself and Tom Toole. That gets released every single Friday at 2 p.m. Okay, today on BAM, we have the Massive Agent podcast going live at 11 a.m. Eastern. It's a solo show with Dustin. He talks about should you sell fewer homes on purpose. Real interesting angle there where there's a push to sell more homes. What's his angle? You got to tune in at 11 a.m. to find out. The Massive Agent podcast, which, by the way, this year is going to break 1 million downloads. So congrats to Dustin. We're going to track that number. Just like we're tracking LeBron James breaking the all-time scoring record, we are tracking Dustin breaking 1 million downloads on the Massive Agent podcast. Check that out only here on BAM's YouTube today at 11 a.m. If you've enjoyed this show, leave me a comment. Let me know what you like about it or don't like about it. Or hit the thumbs up and leaving your thoughts below. We'll see you tomorrow morning, live 9:30 on the hot sheet.